November 18th, 2003. 290 miles above communist Cuba, the QuickBird Earth observation satellite captures a series of marks in the landscape.
It's a really unusual image. There are two oval shapes side by side with little dots kind of in the middle.
I have no clue what they are, no idea.
Analysis reveals the structures are around 1,300 feet across.
This looks like a pair of eyes looking at you from the landscape.
Historian David Kruger considers if the eye shape has any occultist or pagan significance.
So the eye is an important symbol in many cultures around the world, including Santeria, an Afro-Caribbean religion. Perhaps this could be some type of an eye formation shaped in the landscape to ward off the evil spirits.
Cuban slaves transported from Nigeria and Benin in the 16th century brought with them religious beliefs that evolved into the underground ritualistic religion called Santeria.
They had a strong burning desire to be able to worship their own gods from West Africa.
Santerian worshippers sacrifice animals to commune with the spirits and appease their gods. During colonial times, these bloody rituals strike fear into the Cuban rulers who outlaw Santeria, believing it to be a powerful form of witchcraft.
The enslaved Africans had a very clever response. They would continue to worship their West African gods through the image of Catholic saints. It became a secret way of practicing their own religion while maintaining their own safety.
Ex-CIA operative Mike Baker is not convinced. Instead, he looks at the military activities of the communist regime in Cuba.
It very well could be a shortwave antenna array. And oftentimes those antenna arrays are in a circle.
The site's position at the north of the island could be significant.
Cuba is a communist country, only 100 miles from the American border. We could be looking at a key site in Cuba's espionage network.
The location of it on the northern end of Cuba, closest to the Florida coast, would make sense.
When Fidel Castro seizes power in a bloody revolution in 1959, he establishes a one-party dictatorship and forms an alliance with the Soviet Union, posing a direct threat to the United States.
There was concerns about Cuba being a jumping-off point for a potential invasion of the United States by Russia.
It is alleged that the CIA hatched hundreds of plots to kill the Cuban leader, including lacing a handkerchief with deadly bacteria and filling his famous cigars with explosives. Over the following years, hundreds of thousands of ordinary Cubans decide to escape Castro's socialist paradise.
Not everyone in Cuba is a fan of Castro, and a lot of them ended up fleeing the country and landing in the United States.
During just one 5-month period in 1980, over 125,000 Cubans arrive in Miami. To spy on them and on America, Cuba's secret police come up with a plan.
Cuba saw this group of anti-Castro people in Miami and realized that they could be a potential threat. And they saw an opportunity to plant their own operatives in the United States and track what these guys were doing in Miami.
Technology expert Mike Capps considers if the structures in the image are part of a radio transmission system used in covert operations, known as a numbers station.
Number stations have been around since World War I. It's a really effective mechanism for communicating to in-country assets.
Numbers stations transmit patterns of numbers alongside repeated bursts of strange music or other sounds. The numbers are coded instructions to spies in the field and are almost impossible to crack.
Number stations are such a great way to send assets in country because they just go to Walmart and buy a shortwave radio and listen in.
When FBI agents detect messages coming from what they believe to be a Cuban number station, the Bureau is put on high alert.
There was a woman who would come on very politely, say, "Atención," and then read out a string of numbers.
In 1995, agents recover a cipher which enables them to decode messages from the Atención station. 6 years later, they used the decrypted messages to prosecute members of the so-called WASP network of Cuban spies.
Dubbed the Cuban Five, these individuals were eventually charged and convicted of espionage in the United States and sent to federal prison.
Following the trial, the Atención number station falls silent. But in 2012, intelligence agents detect messages occupying the same frequency and time slots once used by Atención. Messages that continue to this day.
It's pretty clear that Havana is still trying to penetrate government installations and institutions here in the U.S.
We know the Atención number station existed, but we never did find it, and this may have been it.